Let's talk markets now. Jameel Ahmad is Chief Market Analyst at ForexTime. He's with us in the studio. Morning, Jameel.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
We're going to talk commodities in a second. Gold and oil, obviously, very important here in Dubai. But let's begin with currency markets at the moment. Looking at dollar euro, and the big conundrum for many people is how the euro, amid all the turmoil, is as strong as it is. This morning it's trading around about the 110 level against the US dollar. How is the euro holding up given all the headwinds?
I think one thing that is important to bear in mind is that the euro did drop dramatically against the dollar within the past year. But something that I have been pinpointing in my market reports on a regular basis is that the 110 area of the euro dollar is a huge psychological level. And I think the more educated traders and the smarter traders are realizing this. And when the euro closes below 110 on a daily, from daily trading, they're seeing that as selling opportunities. At the same time, when the euro dollar closes above 110, this is when the buyers are trying to get some more momentum out the pair.
But these are small fluctuations. These are short-term trades, aren't they?
Yes.
Where do you see the euro headed more long-term if we're sitting here in a year's time? Are we going to be in that 110 range, or are we going to be breaking out of that and in something very, very different?
I think there are some concerns if the euro drops too heavily, especially against the dollar. This would weigh on the US markets, in particular the US exporters. But all of the expectations for the euro remain strictly bearish, which means that most people are expecting further selling. I personally still believe that parity is very much possible for the euro dollar.
Interest rates, of course, one of the big factors that are driving that currency pair at the moment, and speculation about what the Federal Reserve will do and when it might do it. What are your thoughts on the Fed and what they're going to do?
Yeah, as central bank policies continuing to dominate the volatility in the foreign exchange market, I think there's no bigger divergence in central bank policy than between the European Central Bank and the Federal Reserve. Now, in regards to the US interest rates, one thing that I've actually been pinpointing since autumn 2014 was that I expect the first interest rate rise to be in September 2015. I still expect that to be the case. Yes,
this time yesterday, in that very chair where you are, was a guy called Gary Dugan, who's Chief Investment Officer at National Bank of Abu Dhabi. And he was taking not taking a different view. He thinks maybe there'll be a rate rise, but he was saying there absolutely should not be a rate rise. He was saying global markets are far too fragile. And he had some choice words for members of the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee who were pushing for a rate rise. He says it's far too early. The global economy, the US economy, far too fragile. What's your view?
I look at it from the completely different point of view. The US economic growth, it's been very sustainable. Its data is very consistent. And I think that when there are risks in the global economy, uncertainties over commodity prices, uncertainties over Greece, China, if the US Federal Reserve can still raise interest rates, this would provide confidence in the global economy with a very welcome boost.
Well, you're based in Cyprus, my old stomping ground. Before we came on air, we had a bit of a chat about the tourist strip in Limassol. But you're pretty close to Greece as well, and you're getting a flavour of the Hellenic situation as well. One of our regular contributors, Marios Maratheftis, the Global Chief Economist of Standard Chartered Bank, who's based here, is a regular contributor. He said he sees that sort of tourists are starting to come back to Cyprus, at least. In Greece, they had an air traffic control strike, which put a dent on incoming flights. But how are you getting the sort of flavour of the whole sort of Greek-Cyprus axis, if you like? Is there much positivity? Is there any real recovery?
No, the Cyprus economy is doing much better now. I think that tourists are definitely returning to Cyprus. I actually moved there last summer. Admittedly, last summer was a bit quiet. I was a bit surprised to move to Cyprus. I didn't see so many tourists around. But this year, there have been many tourists. Internationally, I'm seeing a lot of more people visit from the Middle East, from Asia, China, and also from Europeans, specifically Brits. British are very much enjoying this sterling to the euro right now.
Yeah.
Some of the other issues you're looking at, of course, are the commodity markets. Two in particular that we follow very closely here are gold and oil. Let's look at the oil price. The past year has been brutal for both WTI and Brent crude. Where do you see it heading from now?
Yeah, to be honest, low oil prices are here to stay. There's just too many risks in the markets right now. There's a huge oversupply, which, to be honest, I think is increasing. Investment in oil production throughout the OPEC committee members seems to be rising, which suggests to me that OPEC are actually comfortable with the low oil prices. In in reference towards regaining market share, and also when there is global economics uncertainty, and we have had 3 global economic downgrades within the past 2 months. I think the most recent one was from Nisai yesterday. This weighs on demand, so there's a complete oversupply and less demand equation, and it's continuing to point out towards lower oil prices.
And in terms of how people are playing that, is this a big trade at the moment? Are we seeing a lot of volatility in the market? Are we seeing a lot of liquidity in this market?
Yeah, it has been. I think since the beginning of July, the price of oil has now dropped by over $15. The selling seems to have paused over the past 1 or 2 days. Now, what I'm looking out for, guys, is the previous floor in oil selling was seen at $42. I called it. But if we begin going towards $42 again, and if we actually extend below, this is when the financial markets are really going to wake up, because central banks are going to begin to panic that the price of oil is dropping too much, and this is when we're going to see central banks probably begin easing monetary policy once again.
Final word on gold.
That's dropped below $1,100 2 weeks ago. That was a stunning psychological move. I think we've entered a new period of gold weakness. One thing that I'd like to point out is that despite all of the uncertainty in Greece, there was complete hesitation towards purchasing gold, which is very surprising. I mean, gold is under continuous pressure due to the US interest rate rise. Economic data is consistent. Gold remains vulnerable to further falls.
How far do you think it could go down? It's trading at 1086 at the moment. Are we talking 1000, 900?
Now that we've dropped below $1,100, we've opened the doors to eventually trade in below 1,000. This was how stunning that psychological move was.
You're obviously fairly intimate with the forex markets, and we've seen various scandals in the LIBOR rigging rate. We've seen other markets rigged. Gold fixing, for instance, has been rigged. And the forex markets are a little bit different. They're not traded on an exchange. They're very much my word is my bond between traders. It is supposedly an honourable market. But do you think that the forex market needs more regulation to keep it clean?
Look, ForexTime is a company that's formed on trust and transparency. We completely look at regulation and we abide by regulation. Now, more regulation...
Do you think there needs to be more, though?
I think that more regulation can mean more transparency for clients and develop more trust. So if there's more opportunities for clients to more trust the industry more, then, yeah, more regulation...
I have to ask you about virtual currencies, bitcoins. Where do you see them going? What's your view on that?
I don't pay attention to Bitcoin very much, but I have noticed since the Shanghai composites started dropping, the Bitcoin has begun to rise again.
It is interesting where the money's going.
Yeah.
If you watch it, yeah. That's one virtually unregulated market. It's a bit of a worry.
Myself, I don't actually pay any attention to Bitcoin. It's a virtual currency.
Do you think it'll ever take off and be part of our daily lives?
I'm surprised it's become as popular as it has.
Yeah. Jameel, it's been great talking to you. Thanks for joining us this morning. Jameel Ahmad, Chief Market Analyst at ForexTime. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.